Welcome to the Possibility Space Let's Play of Mass Effect. I am your host, Rowan Kaiser. I am a freelance writer and pop culture and video game critic, working on a book about the Mass Effect series called Possibility Space. I don't remember what installment this is, but rest assured, it is definitely an installment of my Let's Play. I recently completed the Citadel quest, or at least the first batch of Citadel quests, and I'm heading out into the universe to do the main BioWare-style plot quests. I also recently created a playlist that is probably the easiest way to organize this now, so you can bookmark that. It should be fairly obvious to see if you're seeing this. But yeah, that'll be easier than me having to change my intro and such for all of these videos. So, back to the Normandy. It's been a couple weeks since I've done this. I had about a week and a half of really intense freelance writing work.
Stand by, shore party. Decontamination in progress.
So my apologies for that.
What happened to Captain Anderson? Survives 100 battles and then gets taken down by backroom politics. Just watch your back, Commander. Things go bad on this mission, you're next on their chopping block.
Saren's out there somewhere, and we're gonna find him.
Everyone on this ship's behind you, Commander. 100%. Intercom's open. If you got anything you want to say to the crew, now's the time.
This is Commander Shepard speaking.
We have our orders. Find Saren before he finds the conduit. I won't lie to you, crew. This mission isn't going to be easy.
This began with an attack on a human settlement in the Traverse.
But we know Saren won't stop there. His Geth armies aren't going to stay on the far fringes of Citadel space.
For too long, our species has stood apart from the others.
Now it's time for us to step up and do our part for the rest of the galaxy. Time to show them what humans are made of.
Wherever Saren goes, we'll follow.
Wherever he searches for the conduit, we'll be there. We will hunt him to the very ends of the galaxy and bring him down.
Humanity needs to do this.
Not just for our own sake, but for the sake of every other species in Citadel space. Saren must be stopped, and I promise you all, we will stop him.
Well said, Commander. Captain will be proud.
Fancy speeches won't stop Saren from finding the conduit. If we really want to make the captain proud, we better get this bird in the air.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry if you heard me bumping around there. I was looking for my water bottle. I find the idea that Anderson was taken down by boardroom politics fairly interesting. It's not really one that comes up beyond Joker, who kind of represents the Normandy crew. Joker's perception of events. But Shepard does acknowledge it.
Commander, something you need?
I like to know my crew. Mind if I ask you a few questions?
I can see where this is going. You did a background check on me, didn't you? Well, I'll tell you the same thing I told the captain. You want me as your pilot. I'm not good. I'm not even great. I am the best damn helmsman in the Alliance fleet. Top of my class in flight school, I earned that. All those commendations in my file, I earned every single one. Those weren't given to me as charity for my disease.
What are you talking about? Are you sick?
You mean you didn't know? Oh, crap. Okay, I've got Froelich syndrome, brittle bone disease. The bones in my legs never develop properly. They're basically hollow, too much force and they'll shatter. Even with crutches and my leg braces, it's hard to get around. One wrong step and crack! It's very dramatic. But I've learned to manage my condition, Commander. Put the Normandy in my hands and I'll make her dance for you. Just don't ask me to get up and dance unless, you like the sound of snapping shin bones.
Why does everyone call you Joker?
It's a lot shorter than saying Alliance Flight Lieutenant Jeff Moreau.
Did I
Plus,
already
I
ask
love to make
this?
little children laugh.
I was just thinking how much you remind me of Santa Claus.
Look, I didn't pick the name. One of the instructors in flight school used to bug me about never smiling. She started calling me Joker, and it stuck.
Why didn't you ever smile?
Hey, I worked my ass off in flight school, Commander. The world's not gonna hand you anything if you go around grinning like an idiot. By the end of the year, I was the best pilot in the academy, even better than the instructors, and everybody knew it. They'd all got their asses kicked by the sickly kid with the creaky little legs. One guess who was smiling at graduation?
It's a nice little backstory, but it doesn't exactly make sense with, you know, Seth Green doing wisecracks in the cockpit. So, it's an ironic nickname for a guy who literally is a Joker.
I need to know more about this Rolex syndrome if I'm putting my ship in your hands.
Yeah, of course you do. It's an extremely rare condition. Nobody knows exactly what causes it. Genetic, maybe. It's treatable, but there's no cure. I classify my case as moderate to severe. I was born with over a dozen fractures, hip, thighs, ankles. My bones were already breaking in the womb. 100 years ago, I wouldn't have survived past my first year. Lucky for me, modern medical science has turned me into a productive member of society.
You're not gonna break a bone trying to fly the ship, are you?
I don't fly with my feet, Commander, so I'm fine as long as I'm in this chair. I gotta be real careful when I get up to take a piss, though. I can do my job as well as anyone on the ship. Better, actually. So don't worry about it.
I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. Let's talk about something else.
Whatever you want, Commander.
How'd you end up joining the Alliance?
Look, if you're looking for an inspirational tale of the crippled kid overcoming impossible odds, you're gonna be disappointed. My mother was a civilian contractor working for the Alliance. I basically grew up on the Arcturus station back when they were building up the fleets. Spend all that time around Alliance ships, there's a good chance you'll end up going to the Academy.
I have to go.
Alright, see ya.
I'm gonna parcel these conversations out a little so I don't spend the entire time talking. Again, normally I will go on a sort of conversation binge after doing a few quests, but I am performing right now. Alright, I just had a quick unintentional break, but we are back again. And it's time to start questing. So, what we have here to begin with is essentially the famous, or I don't know if it's that famous, but the consistent and should be famous BioWare quest structure. In the vast majority of their games, what BioWare does, I guess it's not that much of a majority, but it's in a bunch of influential ones. Most notably, Knights of the Old Republic. I think the first one that they did it in was Neverwinter Nights, though. But you do, the structure is this, you do a tutorial mission and sort of an intro overall, getting you acquainted with the world and the universe missions. So there are two sets of missions initially, and then you're given an open world or an open map with 4 missions, roughly, sometimes 3, sometimes 5, that you do in any order that you want, but you have to do all of those before you can get to the end game. So, in Mass Effect, the quest hub structure is based on Novaria. It's not Pharos, that one's Pharos. Novaria, Pharos, Liara's planet, which begins with a T, and I'm blanking on, and eventually Virmire. Once you do one or two of these, Virmire will show up, and you have to do all four of those before you can progress. At which point, the game structure kind of returns to, kind of refunnels back into, maybe you get one or two little directional choices, but you get sort of a build up to the climax and then a final confrontation, which in this game is Elos and then the Citadel. Sorry, this music is kind of distracting me. I'm gonna pull out there. One of the things that the quest hub structure does, another aspect of it, I call it the quest hub structure because normally each of those four spaces is a town or a city or a planet or something that serves as a sort of base of operations, which you go to, you talk to people, you get quests, and then you go out into a sort of dangerous area and do those quests. Then you come back. And they're usually divided into two parts. The first set of quests is kind of easy and local, and then there's a second set of quests that is much deeper in whatever the wilderness might be, and tends to lead directly to the plot instead of the side quests that are local. That's slightly different here. Don't really need to see the map. It's not that important of a map. Novaria is very much a quest hub, as is Pharos. But the mission to get Liara and Virmire are much more linear adventure type things. And they don't really have stages. Pharos does. And I will probably do that one first. Though I might not do it in this session, but Pharos, you have the sort of simple outside minor quests, and then you have the much deeper quests that takes you directly into the plot. Role-playing games were sort of building to this, like you can see this kind of thing in Fallout and Fallout 2, but they still have a pretty direct structure to them. Baldur's Gate is much more, I wouldn't necessarily call it open world, but it has more traits of an open world game with a linear plot kind of scattered throughout it. Baldur's Gate 2 is one of the more interesting counterexamples to this, because you're basically just dumped in a city and told to go and get money and do whatever quests you possibly can, and it's sort of a mess of doing everything for everybody. Amusingly, the closest parallel to Baldur's Gate 2 is Dragon Age 2. Baldur's Gate 2 is considered an unimpeachable classic, while Dragon Age 2 is rather controversial, largely because Dragon Age 2 kind of runs into the problems of that messy, sort of single location-based storytelling. The advantages that the quest hub structure has is that it lets the players sort of experience the world in easily digestible chunks. I mean the overall game setting when I say the world, not the planet. So it's very easy to see why BioWare kind of relied on that, and not just BioWare, but Obsidian especially used it too in their games. Knights of the Old Republic 2 and Alpha Protocol, and I believe Neverwinter Nights 2, but I haven't played that one deeply enough to be certain. But it's kind of become a cliche though. So you see later games in the Mass Effect series not do it. Mass Effect 2 kind of busts it open. It basically like slices the quest hubs in half and sort of distributes them all over the place. Dragon Age 1 also does it, where Dragon Age 2 does But Mass Effect 3 is probably the strongest counter to it. It's very linear in its main quest, while it's somewhat open in its side quests. So I think I'm going to start doing a side quest. I'm going to see where I should go. Hydros system of the Argos Row cluster. Anyway, I think that the quest hub system is there's a second one here. The quest hub system is useful in Mass Effect because by dividing these things into chunks, we can sort of get the many different aspects of the galaxy put together. You get sort of the corporate layers of Novaria and the horror of Pharos and the sort of action movie adventure and intense character and political stuff of Virmire, and then the mysteries of Liara's planet that begins with a T that I don't remember. I really should figure that out before I refer to it, but the way that these structures are arranged are a huge part of reinforcing each game's themes. Like if Mass Effect 1 had the linear sort of structure that Mass Effect 3 had, where you had to do each of those in a particular order for whatever reason, then I think the game would be remembered in a very different way. Likewise, Mass Effect 2's sort of shattered hubs lead to the feeling of a shattered collection of stories, short stories that all sort of lead in the same direction, that of the Seven Samurai or Dirty Dozen recruiting a party to go do a crazy thing. But if that had been done in this quest hub fashion, it might not have had that same, I don't want to say appeal, but it definitely wouldn't have that same structure. And I'm not sure that would be good or bad in each case, but it's a way that each of the games gets defined. Now it's time to start looking for whatever the thing in the cluster was. So I'm going to click on each planet, check each of them out, going in to out.
Message coming in.
Looks like I found
Patching it
it.
through.
General distress call from the Sacred Angel Medical Transport. Critical system failure. Losing power. An emergency landing. Argos. Communications failing. Life support and emergency transponder. Won't last. Please hurry.
I may talk about each of these little descriptions of the planets at some point, but for now I'm just going to land and run around and shoot things. Or drive around and shoot things. So I'm not going to spend too much time recording and talking about the Mako, because that is one part of the book that I do not need to describe and redo, as I've done a piece on it as an original excerpt from the book on Kotaku. if you would like the sort of general theory. It's that the Mako creates a sort of impression of size throughout
It
the
looks like the
galaxy.
signal's coming from that wreckage.
Careful, Shepard. I've got a bad feeling about this. Yeah, there's a trap!
So by driving this around, even though it's a crappy little Jeep, that gives the galaxy a feeling of size. Like, you're only getting this tiny little square of the planet. There are, what, 20 of these planets around? So you can spend a hell of a lot of time, like half of the game in Mako, trying to find every part of it. Every part of Mass Effect, every secret, every side plot. I am a firm believer that one of the best ways to critique games is to consider how much time you spend doing what. So, if in Mass Effect 1 here, or if in Mass Effect 2 and 3, you spend half the game shooting and half the game talking, then you should discuss the games as half shooting and half talking.
Ready whenever you are.
But in Mass Effect 1, you spend a third of the game shooting, a third of the game talking, and a third of the game in damn Mako. So you really need to discuss what the Mako means to Mass Effect. I've done that. Or I feel like I've done that to a certain extent. I'll make sure to link that in the notes for this episode, in case you're coming across this and you haven't managed to read that. It's also in the notes for my overall GoFundMe, displayed fairly prominently, I think. That part of why I want to call at least the section on Mass Effect 1 Possibility Space. And I think it works for the whole series, but the aspect of space is really important in this first one. And the Mako gives that space. Bounce, little G, bounce. The Mako gives that feeling of space by, you drive through physical space of these planets, even though it's boring and monotonous most of the time. There are occasional moments of beauty. This is not a terribly exciting planet, but by and large, it is the act of driving through this physical space that has more meaning than what's in the space. And basically, in doing this, it says this is a huge universe that can include anything. And, we know that the video game is limited by programming and time and all the various technical and creative limitations of video games. But we are going to create an idea of a full, complete, awesome universe for you to inhabit. We're going to do the best that we can, giving you reason to care about this universe. Go, little Mako, go! Bounce, little Mako, bounce. We're going to do the best that we can at giving you this sort of science fiction epic that we cannot possibly succeed at. Ugh. Because making the attempt itself is important. And that's, I think, why Mass Effect succeeds even though it's a failure. Even though this is just driving around a crappy little Jeep. And it's not what would normally be considered fun or tight or constrained or whatever. This is not a game that you play in 8 to 12 hours, and every moment of it is designed to be a perfect little nugget of video gaming. It's a game that's designed to be a mess that you project what you want to see in it. So even though Mass Effect is also often considered like a AAA game similar to the Uncharted series or Call of Duty, it's very different philosophically. In that it basically allows itself to be messy. I appreciate that a lot more. I have a very hard time with your average AAA blockbuster type game. Not in terms of seeing quality or whatever, but just in terms of staying motivated. I can play for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then I have to go and do something else because it just seems so, I don't know, perfectly designed that I can't get, I can't use my mental closure to understand what's going on. And, want to learn more about the world, or I want to learn more about the Mass Effect world. I want to, maybe not necessarily write fan fiction, but if someone called me and said, "Hey Rowan, you get to write the plot for this Mass Effect Tactics game that you're working on, or that we're working on," I would say, yes, I can do that. I would love to work with you on that. Because I find this universe fascinating and filled with potential or possibility for lots of different types of stories, and Shepard is only one minorly interesting one. On that note, I think I'm done on this planet. I could drive around more and see if I can pick up more minerals on the radar, like here particularly, maybe up here, but I'm just not that interested in that. Of course, now I have to figure out what the button to get back to the Normandy is.
I'm on my way.
Ah, in. The button in, how appropriate. So let's talk to Presley.
If anyone has to take over for Captain Anderson, I'm glad it's you. I'm not sure about having non-humans on our ship, though.
We're all on the same team here, Presley.
With all due respect, ma'am, that's what they said about Nihilus. Look how that turned out.
He was on our side.
Speak freely, Presley. I want to know if you have a problem with non-humans.
It's not that, Commander. Humanity has always handled its own problems. Saren attacked one of our colonies. We should be the ones to stop him. We don't need their help.
Some people think asking for help is a sign of weakness. That's just being stupid and stubborn. No matter how strong you are, allies can make you stronger.
I guess so. Maybe I'm just stuck in the old ways of thinking. But don't worry, Commander. This won't be a problem.
Shepard is not exactly tactful there. This is me saying that.
How did you end up assigned to the Normandy?
I signed up with the Alliance as a navigator right out of school, following in my grandfather's footsteps, I guess. My first posting was on the Agincourt. We were at Elysium during the Skillian Blitz. A massive fleet of alien raiders hit the colony, trying to wipe it out.
Pretty sure that Shepard
They
is
had the
aware of
numbers, but their ships were no match for an Alliance frigate. It was a slaughter. We couldn't even keep track of how many ships they lost.
How'd you end up on the Normandy?
I got my officer's commission after Elysium. Must have made an impression on the right people. Captain asked for me when he was picking his crew.
How did you end up assigned to the Normandy?
I signed up with the Alliance as a navigator right out of school. We were at Elysium. They had the numbers, but their ships were no match for an Alliance frigate. It
Guess
was
I've already
a
done that.
slaughter.
Carry on, Presley.
Yes, ma'am.
Good conversation. So let's check out the other worlds here. I might run across a quest or something interesting in the process. I'd also like to just, you know, say I have completed the Argos Rho cluster. So I never have to come here again. Here we have a fairly interesting little notation about the planet. It's not simply what it's made out of and mined for, but also the history of it. Site of the warlord Shiager's defeat by Turian peacekeeping forces. She was a female warlord and one of the last few remaining females. So, just by, if you happen to read this, you will get more of an impression of where this planet is in the galaxy and what it means. Although, it's kind of difficult to see borders, especially since I don't believe Tuchanka is even in this game. Or if it is, you can't do anything with it. It's only in Mass Effect 2 that you can start doing things at Tuchanka. But you can just sort of see the idea that this is a galaxy where a lot of different things has happened. In order to have the possibility of interesting things happening in the future, Mass Effect has to create the idea that they have happened in the past. It's really, really critical. That the potential for new stories to be told is there. So, if I were to land on that story, if I were to land on that planet and meet a Krogan who was looking for some sort of relic or whatever to talk about Shiager, then, you know, that story is something that easily makes sense within the universe and makes sense for that planet specifically. If it doesn't create that history, then, you know, I'll meet someone who's looking for a thing and I won't care. There are a bunch of side quests that just kind of collect various elements that you find around the galaxy. I have no real compulsion to do all of those, but I will poke around and grab the ones I can, because why not? I'm going to land here and drive around in the Mako for a bit. If something particularly interesting happens, I will start recording again, but otherwise I will see you on the flip side. Are there flips in space? Anyway. Pausing now. Pausing recording. Alright, I have discovered a, quote, hidden structure, which appears to be controlled by either pirates or Geth. I see them on my radar. I'm not sure what exactly they are, but I'm sure they will blow up either way. It's like pirates. Given the prevalence of the Geth in the main plot, it's fairly easy to forget just how many normal humanoids you kill over the course of Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 2 is like almost entirely spent fighting mercenaries and the occasional collectors or Geth, where Mass Effect 3 is...
I know who runs this place.
almost entirely spent fighting monsters, either the Reapers or the Geth or the Cerberus, who have already been indoctrinated. But this one's about half and half. And I had remembered it the first time that I played it as being almost entirely Geth with only occasional pirates, and that made the sort of themes of Mass Effect 2 as being darker and more gritty and violent stand out, but that's not actually the case here. You are killing humanoids pretty regularly.
Have you been here before?
No, but I was planning to come here before you and I met. This place belongs to a Turian scum named Ton Actus. It's a long story, but he's got something that belongs to me.
What is it?
Family armor. It's been with us for over 5 generations. Turian military took it from my father's father after the war. Somehow this ass wound up with it. I want it back.
So this is kind of funny. As I recalled, you can convince Rex to stick around with you when things get particularly intense later in the game if you have done this quest. And I believe he gives you the quest if you talk to him and befriend him enough, but I just happened across it on the second planet that I happened to visit.
We'll get it back. Now let's move.
Right behind you.
And now we enter the Mass Effect 1 warehouse room. Ah, this isn't it. This isn't slightly different. Hey, Mass Effect warehouse room.
Hostile
Enemy is everywhere!
Wow.
Enemy is everywhere!
That was awkward. This is what happened when you haven't played in 2 or 3 weeks. You forget that you're playing an adept and run right into a sniper bullet. Or beam or whatever.
Go, go, go! Hold the line! Go, go, go!
turn the difficulty down, but
Enemy is everywhere!
it's possible that because I arrived here far too early, these bad guys are a little tougher than I should be facing, but it doesn't feel like it's anything other than rustiness preventing me from succeeding here. Still, I suppose if I keep losing, I will.
Go, go, go! Hold the line!
Good job, Tally, whoever that was. Jesus. Did I change the difficulty? This would be embarrassing. Veteran. Alright. So. I think I will update my squad. This might be the issue. Letting you all see how fun it is to go through the inventory here. In general, I have paused it when I do this, but it's a good reminder of what you need to do in Mass Effect when you see things that are going wrong. You go through and look at everything and it's boring. Alright. Back at it.
Enemy is everywhere!
This will help.
not resurrection. That's not resurrection either. Do I have resurrection? I guess I don't.
Go, go, go!
Jesus. Alright. I'm going to pause recording until I can beat these guys. This here is a perfect location for a pressure maw. It may not actually be here, but got a nice round location with a pyramid and a probe to check out, so.
Heading out.
Four by four on a priceless ancient pyramid. Billions of those scattered around the galaxy. Alright, seems pretty clear that there's no finisher maw here, unless one pops up. Yeah. Alright, so that last planet was a bit of a disaster. In addition to the quest for Rex's family armor, Tuntao, or if that's a vaguely Star Wars sounding thing. In addition to the quest for Rex's family armor, which I failed, I also encountered an object for which my electronics skill was too low to work on. So, fortunately, there's something in the journal that suggests that I can go back there, or that will push me to go back there. I won't just forget the Argos row system, which is in the middle. Instead, I think I will head over to the start of a plot zone. So every time I've played previously, I have made Liara one of my initial important characters, and gone to go get her first. Well, the first time was because, hey, I need that. Sorry. Hey, I need that sixth person in my party. So I went straight for it, and the second time it was, hey, my party desperately needs an adept. So again, I went straight for it. But you don't have to do that. You can do these things in different order. So I could get an Novaria, which I believe I will, and see what it's like to deal with Matriarch Benesia without Liara. But I believe that this will be the end of this session for the night, and we'll come back to this tomorrow, hopefully. That's all for now.